The original biblical manuscripts were not written in English. Of them, the most popular were the Septuagint, which was written in Greek, Peshitta, which was written in Middle Aramaic, the Textus Receptus, written in Greek, and the Vulgate, which was written in Latin. The Septuagint is a pre-Christian translation of the Hebrew Bible and some related texts into Koine Greek. The Greek manuscripts are called the Codex Vaticanus and Codex Sinaiticus. Fragments are dated around the end of the 2nd century, and complete scripts are dated around the 4th century. The King James Version of the Bible was not translated from the Septuagint, but from the Textus Receptus.
Now that we know which language we get the renewed covenant or the Gospels from, the Greek Textus Receptus, we can put a spotlight on the very important subject that has been misinterpreted for the last 1,000 years. The subject of being put away or sent away, and the difference in comparison with the word divorce or bill of divorce. Let us first start with the Greek term put away or sent away. In the Greek, it is called apaluo. And the bill of divorce or certificate of separation is called apostasion. Two completely different words. And we'll see how it was misinterpreted into the English language. So let us move on to the Torah, the law of divorcement. Deuteronomy chapter 24, 1 and 2. When a man has taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she finds no favor in his eyes, because he has found some uncleanness in her, let him write her a bill of divorcement, and give it in her hand, and send her out of the house. And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. So before we move forward, we must understand that the Messiah never contradicted or done away with any of the Torah or the law or the instructions. Matthew chapter 5 verse 17-19. Do not think I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. Therefore, anyone who sets aside of the least of these commandments and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Here we go. Matthew chapter 5 verse 31 in the King James. This is how it says it on this side, okay, in the King James. It has been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement. Where was it said? Back in the law, Deuteronomy 24, 1 and 2. So let's look at the difference where it says in the Greek, Textus Receptus. All right, so right here. It was declared yet that whoever should be from loosening or should be dismissing, right here, that word is apalua. Okay, remember that right here, this Greek word apalua. Dismissing or sent away, right? Put away. The woman, whoever should be putting away the woman, in the English it's translated as wife. Of him, let him be giving to her from stand divorced, right? Well, the word apostasion, that means a writing of divorcement. Okay, remember that, a writing of divorcement, apostasion. As we scroll down, verse 32, but he's going to explain right here what he's saying. But I say unto you that whosoever shall put away his woman, wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causes her to commit adultery, and whosoever shall marry her that is divorced commits adultery. So this is how it was translated in the English. This is the subject of question right here. But I say unto you that whosoever shall put away his woman, wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causes her to commit adultery. And whosoever shall marry her that is divorced commits adultery. Now let's look at it how it's rendered in the original Greek Gospels that we translated it to from the Greek to the English King James. All right. I yet am saying to you that whoever should be dismissing, right, apalua, the woman, right here, in the English they put wife, of him outside of the case of prostitution. This is another subject. The word fornication comes from the word prostitution, which in the Greek is porneia. Okay, I'm gonna post that right now. Porneia is making her to be adultering. Okay, and whoever is one having been dismissed should be marrying is committing adultery. So apalumen, apalumene. Okay, so whoever was sent away without a bill of divorce and is marrying another person is committing adultery. So this is explaining you can't just break up like a high school couple or like a boyfriend and girlfriend and y'all just go y'all separate way. No, if you guys are married, you have to have a divorce, a bill in writing, just like it says up here, just like the Messiah says right here. You have to have an apostación, a writing of divorcement. You understand? I hope y'all understand what I'm saying. So you don't see the word apostación here, but you see it in the English. Whosoever shall marry, that is apostación. That's what it should say right here. Apostación for divorced. But the English says divorced. But over here, it says apalumen, a woman that has been dismissed without a certificate of separation. And if she marries, that is committing adultery because she doesn't have the letter of certification as far as saying that she can go on with her life. So this was to protect her from being stoned to death. I hope you guys understand that.
Way is a separate act to certificate of divorce. We're going to see that. You'll see. Be patient. And when combined together is a legal separation. Matthew 14 and verse 15. He says, and when evening came, his taught ones came to him, saying, this is a deserted place and the hour is late. Dismiss the crowds so that they may go into the villages. The word dismiss there is apaluo. Did he divorce them? Did he say go divorce the crowds? No, he said dismiss the crowds. Go to verse 22, same chapter. And immediately Yeshua made his taught ones enter into the boat and go before him to the other side while he divorced the crowds. No, he apaluoed. He dismissed them. He sent them away. So here it's again the word apaluo. Go to verse 23. He said, and having divorced the crowds, again the same ideas. He dismissed them. He apaluoed them. He went up into the mountain by himself to pray. Go to chapter 15. We'll stay here in Matthew. Verse 22, he says, and see, a woman of Canaan came from those borders and cried out to him, saying, have compassion on me, O Master, son of David. My daughter is badly demon-possessed. But he did not answer her word, and his tall ones came and asked him, saying to her, divorce her because she cries after us. Do you see how absurd this gets? He said, send her away. That's apaluo. Apaluo. Verse 32. And Yeshua, having called his tall ones near, said, I have compassion on the crowd because they have now continued with me 3 days. I do not have whatever to eat. I do not wish to send them away hungry. I do not wish to divorce them hungry. Make sure you feed them before we divorce them. See, that's not what the word means. But you know, in this court system today, you're not legally divorced until you get those papers. And so you can't legally go and marry somebody else or do anything like that until you get those papers. Guess what? That's the same thing in Torah. You must have the legal paper. Now let's look at apostasion. Guess what? It only appears in a very few places. In the places where it talked about divorce. In Matthew 19 and in verse 7, it says, they said to him, why then did Moshe command to give a certificate of divorce and to put her away? Moshe commanded them to do both. So Yeshua is addressing a problem in the community where there was this dismissing and sending away without giving the certificate to prove it. Because again, we have confirmation in Matthew 19 that Moshe commanded them to give the certificate and to send them away, to dismiss them. Okay? Also, we have the same thing in Mark chapter 10 and verse 4. You can look there real quickly. In the same discussion, it says, and he said, because he asked them, they were addressing him about putting away the wife. We're going to read that later. He said, well, what did Moshe command you in verse 3? In verse 4, he says, well, Moshe allowed a man to write a certificate of divorce and to put her away. And. You have to do both. Okay? And then it's legal and it's okay. Matthew 19:1, it says, it came to be when Yeshua had ended these words and he left Galilee and came to the borders of Yehuda beyond the Jordan, and large crowds followed him and he healed them there, that the Pharisees came to him trying him. Now let's remember, all interactions with the leadership was always to test what he would do. It was always a test to see if they could shame him or accuse him of being false. And they wanted to test him saying, is it right for a man to put away his wife for every reason? Now what's missing in that sentence? The apostation, there's no certificate. Is it right for a man to send away or dismiss his wife, apaluo his wife, for every reason? And he answered and said to them, did you not read that he who made them at the beginning made them male and female? And he said, for this cause a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become echad, one flesh, so that they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what Elohim has joined together, let man not separate. Now, it's very important that we're going to, at some point, address what Elohim put together. Let's remember, sometimes it's us that puts it together. It says, what Elohim put together, let man not separate. So let's understand that that's a big point here, because people, they want to take out of it that every marriage somehow is the way Elohim put it together. No, we do a lot of stupid things because we do a lot of stupid things. And often we do it when we're like in our teens or in our 20s and we don't know enough to make good decisions. And so he said, then they said to him, why then did Moshe command to give a certificate of divorce and to put her away? So in other words, he said, well, if Elohim joined together, let man not separate, then why did Moshe say they could divorce? And he said to them, listen now in verse 8, because of the hardness of your hearts, Moshe allowed you to put away your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. And I say to you, whoever puts away his wife, except on the ground of porneia, and marries another, commits adultery, and whoever marries her who has been put away commits adultery. Again, there's no mention of the certificate here, is there? And we're going to kind of remember that we have this. Is it right for a man to apaluho his wife? Okay, that's back in verse 3. For any reason, and then he goes through, this whole thing about what Elohim put together, and then he says again, what did Moshe say? And they said, well, Moshe said, give a certificate and apaluho, apostation and apaluho, and then he said, because of the hardness of your hearts. Well, what in the world does that mean? Okay, well, if you don't have a hard heart, then only because you're hard-hearted do you want to get a divorce. Now, hold on a second. Let's let the scripture define what hardness of heart means. Ezekiel 36 and in verse 24. And I shall take you from among the Gentiles and shall gather you out of all the lands, and I shall bring you into your own land. By the way, why were they scattered to among the Gentiles? Because they were pornaying and they were breaking commandments and they were doing all kinds of things. Idolatry, but mostly it was Sabbath breaking and idolatry. Okay? He says, and I'm going to gather you and I'm going to sprinkle clean water on you and you shall be clean from all your filthiness and from all your idols I shall cleanse you. Now listen to verse 26. And I shall give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you, and I shall take the heart of stone. Does that sound like because you were hard-hearted? Oh, well, it's because you are of the hardness of your heart. Well, there it is, the heart of stone. He says, out of your flesh, and I shall give you a heart of flesh. And I shall put my spirit within you, and I shall cause you to walk in my laws. That's the heart of flesh. The heart of stone is against walking in his laws. And guard my rulings and shall do them. And you shall dwell in the land that I gave your fathers, and you shall be my people, and I shall be your Elohim. Do you see that hardness of heart here does not uniquely have to do with, oh, you're just so hard-hearted and cold-hearted and mean, that's why you want a divorce. No, it means that you are not obeying the commandments, so you probably didn't even get married right in the first place, not always, okay? But a lot of it has to do with not even getting married in the first place correctly, or you were just You weren't even walking in Torah, so you had no idea how to treat each other. So maybe there was nothing wrong with you being together, but you were both worldly, okay, not Torah observant, so you didn't know how to treat each other and love each other, because guess what? Torah teaches you how to do all that, okay? And he said, well, he also mentions that I'll put my spirit within you, which has what in it? Joy, peace, patience, kindness, meekness, and all that wonderful stuff. Do you think you need that to have a successful marriage? You betcha. Okay, you need all that to have a successful marriage. So hardness of heart is not unique to, oh, well, because of hardness of heart, he gave you a divorce. No, because of hardness of heart, they got sent to scattered amongst the Gentiles. Every commandment we broke because it was because of hardness of heart, because hardness of heart equals unbelief and disobedience. Now, it could be unbelief because you hadn't opened your eyes yet. So in that case, it may not be disobedience, just unbelief. You can't believe something he hasn't given you, remember, eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to receive, right? He's got to reveal all that. If he hasn't done it yet, you're walking in unbelief. You're walking in the worldliness of the flesh. Let's continue, if that's not clear enough, and go to Mark chapter 16. And we're going to tie unbelief to hardness of heart. Mark chapter 16. And in verse 10, Mark 16 and in verse 10. She went and reported to those who had been with him mourning and weeping. Now this is Miriam. Remember, she came to look for Yeshua. And she came, it says here, she went and reported to those who had been with him mourning and weeping. And when they heard that he was alive, remember, she came and said, he's alive, and had been seen by her, they did not believe her. And after this, he appeared in another form to two of them, and they walked and went into a field, and they went and reported it to the rest, but they did not believe them either. Now notice what happens here. Later he appeared to the 11 as they sat at a table, and he reproached their unbelief and hardness of heart. You see, they were hard-hearted. They were not willing to receive. That's a problem that also leads to marriage issues.